You are listening to the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast with Clemitra Deshay, where we are speaking to you about the challenges faced, the barriers to overcome as a wife mom boss in the kingdom, so that you can see the fruition of God's promises for your life. Prepare to be inspired, empowered, challenged, accelerated as a Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, thriving in God's plan. Welcome back, Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, to another episode of the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. Happy first Monday of the month of August. I feel like we stepped into August, and August just felt amazing when we stepped into it. I know there's so many things that are going on this month in my family. I got my daughter moving to college. I got my kids. They're all transitioning to another level. I have two birthdays in August, actually. I just thought about that. I have two birthdays in August, so it's a lot going on. And of course, everybody's bidding for my daughter's room. And I'm like, oh, there's so much we got to move around the house. We need to move the office to an actual office because currently our office is a bedroom. And we got to split up some kids and put them in different places. And it's a lot of work that's gonna be having to take place. And I told my husband I wanted the living room moved around, and he was like, "Well, first we got to get this." And I'm like, "No." I feel like when we are like, I got to get this done before I do this, and I got to do that before I do this, it just causes a delay and a hindrance in what it is that we're trying to do. So I could probably go down a spiritual rabbit hole of how we don't show up because we feel like we got to be a certain way or do a certain thing or look a certain way. And it just causes a delay in what it is that God is willing and able to do in our lives, whether it's just in our families or in our marriages, in our churches or in our business, whatever it is. Whenever the opportunity comes to get the thing done, girl, just get the thing done. You don't have to have all of your ducks in a row. You don't have to have everything aligned up. I mean, it's amazing and great if you do, but if you're causing a delay because you feel like you have to be a certain way or do a certain thing, and then God is telling you to move in that moment, then you got to move. You can't be like, okay, hold on, God, let me get this stuff together first. Like, God is like, take the step out on faith, and I'm going to carry you the rest of the way. And I feel like that's something that a lot of us are missing. But I'm gonna tell you, life will teach you for sure. Over the past few years, I've had to um just kind of readjust or reacclimate. Like, God had to show me at another level not to care how people saw me as a mother or how people saw me as a wife. And the reason why is because, and girl, I preach this and I preach this and I preach this. But seriously, the family that you were called to, the marriage that you were called to, it's not going to always look like somebody else's marriage. It's not going to look like someone else's family. And since you're a steward to your children and you are a helper in your marriage, you're called to show up a certain way. And that certain way is the way that God has called for us to show up. And so looking out at other people's marriages or somebody looking in at ours, and we think, oh, we want to look like them, and they're looking at us like, oh, we need to look a certain way. It can cause a delay. It can cause a hindrance from what it is that God is really trying to do in our marriages and in our families. It can cause imposter syndrome. And the reason why it can cause imposter syndrome is because you can be doing such an amazing job doing, like, being the mother that you need to be for your children or being the wife that you need to be for your husband. You can be doing an amazing job, but since you're comparing it to somebody else or you're comparing it to something else, then it causes you to feel like you're not doing good enough, or that you're not being the mom that you need to be, or you're not being the wife that you need to be, when in actuality you're being a great mom, and in actuality you're being a great wife. You're being the wife and the mom that your family actually needs you to be. And so comparing it to whatever else you see like that, their family, their marriage, is not the one that God has called you to. And so it causes a sense of self-doubt. It causes a sense of an anxiety. It causes a sense of fear. It's like, oh, I got to do this and I got to be this and I got to be that. And it also can cause us to cause harm in our families. I We've done sports for, my God, my God, my God. I've been a soccer mom, a baseball mom, a basketball mom, a football mom, a cheer mom, a dance mom, gosh, karate mom. Like, I've been, like, all of my kids, the rule in this house has always been that you have to do at least one active sport. And when you get in high school, it is supposed to be one active sport and one club. And that is just something that I set for my children. So we played a whole lot of sports, and I've been every kind of sport mom, right? The only mom I had not been was a band mom, and my youngest son made that come true last year. He's only in fifth grade, but he was in the fifth grade band, and I was like, "Yay! I get to be a band mom now." And so we'll see how that goes if he decides to stay in the band or not. I'm just saying because my daughter was a cheerleader, and baby, the band was jamming, and so I was like, "Oh, I want to be a band mom," and so we'll see. I promise y'all, I did not push him into it. As a matter of fact, I tried to see if he wanted to get out of it because these instruments are expensive. But anyways, um, they all do some kind of sports. I've been all these kind of moms, and so I've seen parents who push their kids to the point of the kids not even enjoying the sport anymore, not even enjoying what it is that they're doing anymore because the parents become competitive in comparison. Like they want their kid to be the greatest and they want their kid to look like this because they want to look like this kind of mom and they want to look like this kind of family. And it's really sad to see. I know I'm not the only person who has seen that. I'm not the only, mom who has experience like seeing stuff like that. And I actually was talking to my daughter and a couple of other people about it because cheer can become very competitive amongst parents, especially in like the competitive cheer world. And it's like, oh, well, my child can do this and my child can do that. And I feel like parents push their kids so hard to the point where they don't even want to like do it anymore. And so it's like, why aren't a lot of these girls wanting to go on and cheer collegiate cheer? Well, they're not wanting to do it because they're burnt out. Like they're tired of the competition, they're tired of being pushed, they're tired of doing all of this stuff. And it really is sad because I know a couple of these girls and I'm like, I know they like absolutely love cheer, but it's like they're tired of it and they don't want to do it anymore. And years ago, God told me he's like, back off with my daughter in cheer because I would coach her sometimes, I would correct her sometimes, and um I think it's too much when you have a cheer coach, a tumble coach, and you got a mom like all at you with this sport. For some kids, it's too much, and like they'll get burnt, like mentally and spiritually burnt out so quick and so easy. And so God was like, back off, and I was like, oh, okay. I'm gonna back off. But that's my job as a mother, to be a steward over her. But I have to take God's direction in that, right? And so God did what he wanted to do with my daughter with cheerleading. She ended up being cheer captain her senior year. Every single time she tried out for All American, she's made it. Like she didn't need me to push her. She just needed me to be there when she needed her. When she needed me, she needed me to help guide her or give her advice in certain situations. I didn't have to be there like nitpicking every single thing she do or backup coaching when the coach is coaching. Like I was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like and just supportive. Hey, you need help with anything? You did a good job. Go to all her games and do all this stuff. Like that was the mother that God called me to be as far as that aspect of my daughter to her. And I feel like in a comparison world, and I'm just using this as just a way for you to like see and to understand, but in a comparison world, I could have been like so hard on her. Girl, you got to get this full and you got to look this way and you got to be the best and you got to do, and I'm going to tell you, truth factor. Um, during the games, during Friday night, during the varsity games, the captain was responsible for like making sure that like the girls are quiet, the girls are paying attention and stuff. They had 34 cheerleaders, 34 cheerleaders on their varsity team, two captains. And for some reason, I don't know why they did decided to do this. None of my business, whatever. They wanted to be on the captains wanted to be on the end, I guess, because they wanted to be in front of the pep club. So you had captains on the end, you had all of these other girls on the other end, and I would be sitting on the other end because the band sits next to the pep. Like you can't sit right in front of them. So I would see some of the girls like not really paying attention or playing around or whatever. And at first I was like, Zanaya, you need to, blah, 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 blah. Like talking to her and telling her she needs to get these girls together and she needs to get them in order. And one day it clicked on me and I was like, wait, their parents are sitting in the stands where I'm sitting. And if their parents aren't telling them, hey, you need to chill out, or hey, you need to pay attention, or hey, you need to not doing this, then why is this the responsibility of my child to make sure that your child is doing what they're supposed to do? And the coach was sitting right there too. So the coach would say stuff to them, if she needed to. But And I was like, okay, zip, like shush. Why you sometimes I think our control factor can get in there and feel like, oh well, for me it was my daughter's the captain. I want people to look at her a certain way and I want them to, think of her as a certain way. And God's like, girl, hush. God's like, girl, hush. And I feel like we do that so much with our children and in our marriages because we want them to be a certain way or do a certain thing. And so we want to look a certain way outside of the home. And when we feel like people aren't looking at us that certain way, we start doubting ourselves or doubting who we are as parents. And we'll be like, I'm not doing a good job. I'm doing a good enough job. And it can cause us to walk in error to the way that God is actually calling for us to walk. And so our household, right, is not it's not the way of the world, it's the way of God. If God calls you to walk a certain way as a wife or walk a certain way as a mother, then that's how you're supposed to be. Even in Proverbs, it states that she manages the affairs of her household, and it says that the husband and the wife call her blessed. The wife was strategically created for the husband, and the wife was strategically created for the children. And so I don't want anyone to doubt who they are as wife, especially if you are sincerely and genuinely trying to check in with God on a regular to make sure that you're showing up the way that He needs you to show up, like for each individual child. Because, baby, I have 4 kids, and like I said, like the last 3 years of my life has been crazy. We've had marital issues. I've had a child get in trouble at school, and I mean like big trouble. Cops called at school. I've had my mom passed away. Work was crazy. I When I came back from maternity leave in 22, we had a traveler and then one full timer, and that full timer was like so distraught from the shortage of workers that we had that she had to leave and she had to go on like a break. And so we were short staffed and like just all of this stuff going on. When my mom had cancer, the ending of her cancer, taking care of her and trying to show up in all of these places and be who I needed to be for each individual person. I had a lot going on. And in that time period, I noticed that I stopped. I used to be the parent that like whenever they sent out like volunteer lists for things to bring into the classroom and there you can volunteer for this and you can do this, like I would send stuff. I would send stuff for Christmas. I would send stuff for teacher appreciation. I would send stuff for end of the year. Like I would always try to look a certain, not necessarily look a certain way, but do a certain thing because I felt like it was what was expected of me from people. And so over the last 3 years, I realized that I stopped. Like I stopped doing so much. And it's so like I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. Definitely if you want to do it, do it. There's nothing wrong with it. But for me, it was so much going on that to feel like I also had to show up a certain way in these particular areas was a lot on me. But I also feel like because I had so much going on that I kind of step back a little bit on like making sure that my kids were, how can I say that? Making sure that they were they were showing up the way that they needed to show up. Like I had to like reshift my mind, and God was like, "Hey, I need you to wake up. Like you need to get this together." But and I know my kids go to a charter school, and so I know that some of those teachers was looking like, what is going on? But in that moment, literally, I had to hone in and have a conversation with God. I had to hone in and get my strength and my confidence from God because I knew that I probably wasn't showing up the best that I could possibly show up, but I was doing the best that I can in that season and in that moment. And so I had to own who I was in that season and not walk, like not try to present myself to be a certain way. Granted, like I don't really tell people my business. Like whatever is going on in my household, unless God tells me to reveal it, I'm not gonna go to somebody and tell them my business. But I had to own who I was in those seasons and just go before God and just really ask God to help me walk through those seasons so I didn't feel like I was failing. So and not look at the internet and not look at social media and look at other people's marriages and other people's families and see what they're doing, because it will cause you to feel like you're not doing a great job for your situation, for what you have going on, for your sphere of events that you have going on in your marriage and in your household. You are called to show up a certain way, but don't compare that to the way that other people show up and what other people are doing. Like, there are certain things that God desires for you to, certain paths that God desires for you to travel or for you to walk on, so that you can see the fruition of His plans and His promises for your particular family and your particular marriage. And that's not going to look the same as everybody else's. And so, um, I can't stress it enough. Like, the word authentic keeps popping up. Like, it just like authenticity has always been around, but it just keeps coming up, and it's because you have these people who are trying to yield a certain result, or like present themselves to be a certain way, and it's unauthentic to who they are. And a lot in the coaching world is coming up: be authentic to who you are, because especially if you're a kingdom coach, like, if you're a kingdom coach, you're called to coach a certain way, you're called to present yourself a certain way, and God didn't choose you so that you can try to conform to what somebody else is or what somebody else is doing. He chose you because you are who you are, uniquely and authentically who you are, and He can use that to impact others and to help others. But when we try to merge ourselves to what somebody else is doing or how somebody else is showing up, some of you are trailblazers. Like, God has you on this certain path, and it doesn't look like anybody else, and you feel like the only way that you can get clients is by A, B, and C, because this is what the world is doing, A, B, and C. And God's like, no, I got a D over here for you. This is the way that you're going to get clients. It's not going to be the same way. I don't know why I feel like I need to say that, but I felt like I needed to say that. But being authentic to who you are, because God is going to use who you are for the people that He has called for you. And so the same thing in marriage, and the same thing for being a mom: being truly authentic to who you are and how you were called to show up. Because the authentic you, right? Not the, ooh, I've joined this friend club and I gotta look this certain way in front of my friends, and I gotta be this certain way in front of my church family, and I'm a content creator, so on social media I gotta present myself this way or nobody's gonna follow me. Girl, be authentic to who you are. You do yourself a disservice. You do your family a disservice. You do your marriage a disservice, your community, your job, your church, your business, your followers. You do everybody a disservice when you are not authentic to who you are. And you create, um, you start creating a delusion and a fantasy even within yourself, that you believe that this is truly who you are. And it's in those moments where I believe God has to give us a rude awakening and tell us that that's not who He called for us to be. This is not how I called you to parent. This is not how I called you to be as a wife. I know that your marriage is not perfect the way that you think it's supposed to be, but I called you into this marriage because I want to do something good in this marriage, and I need your yes and I need your obedience in order to be able to structure and to bring into fruition what it was that I was planning to do in this marriage. I know this marriage does not look like Sister So and So marriage down the street. I know this marriage does not look like the marriage that you see on TV, but this is the marriage that I've called you into, and I have great plans for it, and I need you to be authentic as a wife. And I need you to pay attention to what it is that you're doing in your marriage, and stop paying so much attention to what it is that the world is telling you that you need to be doing in your marriage, so that you can allow healing to take place in your marriage and allow breakthrough to take place in your marriage the way it needs to be. Same thing with our children, right? And so, in your kids' favorite sport or your kids' favorite activity, you do not have to hound them to the point of your own satisfaction. Like, give God the glory in what it is, in every single thing that you do, right? Ask God, how do I help this child? How do I help him at school? How do I help them in their sports and in their activities? How do I help them around the home? What do they need? What is it that they need from me? And I think that really does take prayer and God, because I feel like sometimes kids aren't really honest about how they're feeling. Like, they're not going to have the conversation with you about like certain things that they're going through and certain things that they're experiencing. But when you have that relationship with God, God will reveal these things to you. And even if you don't know, like just say you don't know, like you have not heard the voice of God and you don't know what's going on with these kids, you don't know what's going on in your marriage. Besides the fact that you need to continue to pray, um, just I guess that's it. Like continue to pray and continue to seek God to ask Him to reveal what it is that is going on in your marriage or in your children and your household, and be authentic to yourself and how you handle it. You don't have to let the world know what's going on. You don't have to let the world know that you're struggling. You don't have to let the world know that your marriage is on the brink of divorce. You don't have to let the world know that your children are having what like issues, behavioral issues, or your children are failing. Your like you don't have to let the world know what's going on with your family. Matter of fact, I would advise that you shut the world out. If you have a close friend, you got a person that you can trust, that you can talk to, baby, do it. But you don't have to present yourself to be a certain way. You don't have to try extra hard to post on social media to make it seem like your family is like perfect and you got all of the great things going on. And I'm not talking about people who like just like, post family pictures or, say, hey, we're doing this today. I'm not talking about it. I'm talking about people who go extra hard to make it seem like everything's perfect and everything's great when behind the scenes, like we're struggling and we're failing as wives and we're struggling and failing as mothers, right? Families break from being forced to look a certain way. Like families break. You Baby, we done all seen the TV shows. We done all seen the TV shows of these of rich families that present a certain way, like, hey, let's get together for a photo. But then the dad is always busy working, the mom is super vain and self-absorbed, and nobody's paying attention to the children. But in the world's mind, like everything's perfect and everything's fine because when we seen it on social media, we saw that everything was great. And so, girls, don't let that be you. Don't let that be your marriage. Don't let that be your family. Don't let that be your children. Don't let that be your household. And so it makes me think like, what if God is calling you to heal? Like, what if God is calling you to heal your household? What if God is calling you to heal your marriage, or maybe your children are broken and God is calling you to heal that, but you're not walking in true purpose or true, I guess I'll say true identity to who you are as a wife and as a mom. And so you don't hear that. Like you don't hear that healing needs to take place. Girl, you are a nurturer at heart. You are a helper at heart. You are mother. You are wife. And so, if God is calling you and telling you that healing needs to take place, you have to be able to hear Him and respond. I don't know why that word rang in my spirit. And respond. And respond. And I think that that word is ringing in my spirit because responding also takes us to be able to humble ourselves and show up at a level of accountability, because what if you were the one who caused the harm or caused the pain, and what if you are the reason why something needs to be healed? um oh, it takes a level of humbling ourselves to make sure that we're doing this thing, bringing that back together. So, what if you are the mother who forced your kid because you needed them to look a certain way? What if you are the mother who abandoned your household or abandoned your marriage in a spiritually or mental way because you needed to keep up with the Joneses? What if you are the mother who broke, like the mother or the wife who cause a disconnect or a discord in the household? What if there is anger or bitterness in the household because you weren't there, or you didn't show up a certain way, or you didn't do a certain thing because you were off busy doing something else? What I absolutely love is that we're always forgiven, right? We're always forgiven. God always forgives us, but sometimes we have to do the work in order to clean up the damage that we've created and that we've caused. And I think that Sometimes we want to walk in the forgiveness of things, but we don't want to rectify the situations that we caused for the reason that we needed the forgiveness to begin with, right? And so God can be calling us to rectify the situation. Is God calling you to rectify your home, your marriage, and your children? Where we could have caused in a brokenness, or we could have caused in a frustration, and are you able to have accountability for what it is that you created or that you caused, and go into a place of humility and say I'm sorry, and make sure that you're being the nurturer from this point on, and make sure that you're being the helpmate from this point on to do what you need to do? Are you a wife and a mother of prayer and of war? Like, can you pray healing over your children? Can you war for your kingdom marriage, and not just you, I don't want to put it all on you, but where the enemy has been able to get a foothold into that kingdom marriage, and where the enemy has been able to get a foothold into that kingdom marriage. And instead of warring against the enemy, and instead of dealing with the enemy, you needed to put on a mask to make sure that everyone thought that your marriage was perfect. Everyone thought that your marriage was great. Nobody knew that your marriage was struggling with this thing. And now this thing has gone on for so long that you don't even know how to handle it. You don't even know where to start. It's like whenever you have a big cleanup job, and it's like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start, right? And so you don't start, you go sit down somewhere, you start scrolling, you start playing games, because mentally it's just a lot for you to deal with. And so I am picturing this wife who has had marital issues. The enemy has gotten a foothold in her marriage, and instead of backing up, back up from friends, back up from social media, back up from posting, back up from all of this stuff, and just saying, hey, I need a moment to yourself, and going into a place and really seeking the face of God for your marriage, you've put on this mask of everything's fine and everything's perfect, and we're doing great, and my marriage is exactly what I need it to be. Meanwhile, the enemy has been, tearing up the marriage spiritually, emotionally, and mentally and intimately. Like the enemy has been tearing it up, like just going in. And my mentor always say that spirits or demons have babies, going in and laying these seeds everywhere, seeds of chaos, seeds of frustration, seeds of division, seeds of anxiety, seeds of fear, seeds of infidelity. Like the enemy's just going in and laying these seeds, and instead of getting into a place of warfare, kingdom wife, instead of getting into a place of warfare, you've gotten into a place of vain perception. Like, you want these people to see your marriage a certain way. You don't even, like, you're not even paying attention to what's going on in your kingdom marriage. And that's what I just saw. And so I just want to say, like, thank God for forgiveness, number one, that He will forgive us for abandoning our post. Because you being a wife is a post, you being a mother is a post. Like, it is a position that God put you in, for covering and for keeping and for guiding, right? And so He will forgive us for abandoning our post, and He will guide us through how to war for our kingdom marriages, and how to get the enemy out of our kingdom marriages, and how to shut the door on the enemy, and how to bring that husband up. That is going to be it. We're going to have that conversation. That's going to be a good topic for us to have, because God very specifically gives us instructions in the Bible on who we are and what we're supposed to do as kingdom wives. And so a lot of kingdom wives are missing the mark. I think the ambition to the ambition to the purpose, or the desire to see the purpose come into fruition has overtaken your purpose and your calling as a wife. Okay, whatever. I'm gonna leave that there. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna elaborate on that. We will elaborate that on another episode, but take these things into consideration. Take these things into consideration. Are you showing up as the wife and a mom authentically to who God is calling for you to be for each one, right? Do you have a fear of the world seeing your imperfect leadership? Do you have a fear of the world seeing that your marriage isn't all that they thought it was going to be? Baby, do these teachers have you shook? Do these teachers have you feeling like you need to look a certain way or be a certain way? There were times where I was just like, baby, I know this teacher is looking at me slap crazy because I didn't, like, either I forgot something, I forgot to do something, and it's not that that's okay. I'm just saying, I think a lot of times, parents beat themselves up so bad because of the fear of how others will see them, and God was just like, "Girl, have peace." My God, He was like, "Have peace." Like, it's fine, have peace. And I promise you, it's been perfectly fine. My kids have gotten through their grades and they have been perfectly fine. God is amazing and He is carrying us through. And there is no door that the enemy can shut that God has opened. And so, whatever He has for them, whatever He has for me, whatever He has for our marriage and for our household, like whatever it is, it's going to happen because His word says that it will not come back into him void, right? And so I feel like that's a word that a wife or a mother needs to hold on to today and hear today, that being authentic to yourself and making sure that you show up for each person the way that God has called for you to show up. And not, girl, you better find yourself an authentic community that will support you for who you are and how you show up, and not feel like you gotta support the way the world is telling you to show up. Like, you don't have to do it. Like, I promise you, you just don't have to do it. You owe them nothing. You owe the world nothing but your children and your husband, your household, your family. Like, that's who you owe. You owe them a true authentic you. And so just making sure that we show up authentically in our household, and that we don't have this mask that is causing us to fail in our calling and in our purpose as wives and as moms, right? That's all I was going to talk to you about today. That was it. That was it. That was it. And so I am going to go ahead and get ready to sign off. I can't wait to see you guys next week. Make sure that you comment. Make sure that you share. Make sure that you like. If you have not subscribed, make sure that you subscribe to the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast. We are making sure that we have those conversations that we need to have. Some of these conversations are nice conversations. Some of these conversations are not so nice conversations. Like, whatever it is that God is calling for us to have a conversation about for His Kingdom Wife Mom Boss, we're going to have those conversations to make sure that we are all thriving in the assignments that God has for us. If you have not checked out my website, make sure you go there. It is www.clemetradeshay.com. On there, you can find coaching content. You can find challenges that I have. The Fortified Wife Challenge is still out. I love the Fortified Wife Challenge. It is a challenge to help you focus to see where you are, as far as like, are you a wife who stands on business about her marriage, as far as like standing on business against the enemy for her kingdom marriage. So we have that. We also have the warfare battle plan for kingdom wives who are in marital distress. It is a battle plan to help you elevate your warfare against the enemy, to make sure that you see thriving results in your kingdom marriage. There is merchandise on there. There's everything on there. So anyways, just go check out the website, and I'm going to catch you next time. Have a good one. Bye. Hey, I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Make sure that you catch us every week here on the Kingdom Wife Mom Boss podcast, where we are bringing you new episodes, new content, new information, new empowerment, new strategies, and new strength. Until then, I'll catch you next time.